Hey everyone, it's Raj from 3CB Performance. Today's topic is Arsenal midfielder Aaron Ramsey, who suffered an injury to his left leg in the 33rd minute of Arsenal's second leg Europa League quarterfinals match against Napoli, a game that Arsenal eventually won 1-0 for a convincing 3-0 aggregate win over both legs. They now move on to face Valencia in the semifinals. After the match, we learned that Ramsey had been diagnosed with a left hamstring strain. The hamstrings are a group of four muscles that sit on the back of your leg and are involved in key football movements such as first step acceleration, sprinting, deceleration, kicking, helping to stabilize the hips, and reaching for the ball, which is how Ramsey injured his hamstring. This important role in multiple foundational football movements helps explain why hamstring injuries are the most common injury in elite football. A high-level 13-year study showed that nearly 23% of elite footballers suffer a hamstring injury at some point. Further, the injury itself isn't all that surprising for Aaron because he has multiple risk factors. First and foremost, he has an extensive history of 5 previous hamstring injuries, and previous injury is by far the most reliable predictor of future injury, with research showing that players who've suffered a previous hamstring strain are up to 6 times more likely to suffer another hamstring injury compared to players who have no hamstring injury in their prior history. Secondly, fatigue increases the risk for hamstring injury, and this was Ramsey's 5th consecutive game in 18 days, with the last 3 coming within 7 days of each other. Thirdly, age is a risk factor for hamstring injury for elite athletes. Although we're not exactly sure of the underlying mechanisms, with athletes older than 25 up to 4.4 times more likely to suffer a hamstring injury compared to younger players, and further, the data suggests that the risk for hamstring injury increases nearly 30% annually year over year after starting a professional career. Aaron is now 28 and he's played in the top flight for nearly 10 years. The injury couldn't have come at a worse time, with Arsenal fighting for a top 3 spot in the Premier League in the final stages of the Europa League, and Ramsey playing some of the best football of his career with the aim to end his Arsenal days on a high note. If you haven't heard, he's agreed to sign with Juventus after this season. So the question becomes, can he make it back this season to help give one final push for his club, or have we seen the last of Aaron Ramsey in an Arsenal kit? The team hasn't released any specific information on the extent of the injury, but manager Unai Emery has said that he expects Ramsey to miss 2 to 3 weeks. That lines up with the average return to play timeline for professional footballers after hamstring injuries, which is roughly 18 days. That 18-day mark would put Ramsey's return around May 6th, setting him up for a possible return versus Valencia in the second leg of the Europa League semifinals. That being said, unless Arsenal are in a serious hole after the first leg, I'd put much higher odds on Aaron returning for Arsenal's Premier League finale on May 12th versus Burnley, and potentially playing in the Europa League final if Arsenal make it that far. However, if he does make it back this season, there's a distinct possibility of re-injury. High-level, large sample research shows that nearly 30% of athletes re-injure the hamstring, with over half occurring in the first month back and most occurring within the first 2 months back. Perhaps even more alarmingly, studies show the risk of re-injury was nearly 3 times higher than uninjured athletes for up to a year after the initial injury. The hamstrings are notoriously sensitive, and perhaps even more so for footballers because, as I mentioned before, how involved they are in key football movements. All in all, I do believe that Aaron Ramsey will suit up at least once more for Arsenal, but there's a real chance of re-injury here. I'm cautiously optimistic, and what a story it would be to see Ramsey, who has been through so much with this club, give them one last boost and springboard to future success as he rides off into the next phase of his playing career. That does it for this video. You can always find me on Instagram and Twitter at 3CB Performance. Like, share, and comment on the video, and sub to the channel. Thanks for watching.